started out as a trained cellist.
I did.
What happened?
I know, right? I went to ask him, actually, and when you when you get to ask him in kindergarten, they ask you violin or cello. And because science has proven...
Because they're the choices there are, right? Yep.
The only musical instruments. And because there's so much information and research that has linked learning music as a child to being smarter, I guess. So at Ask 'Em, they ask you to pick an instrument, and I was one of the only 3 girls who chose cello because it was so big, and everybody else wanted to carry their little violins. Also, you can see I'm 6'2", so I thought it made a little bit more sense than the tiny little guy. And I played until I went to Performing Arts High School in Michigan. I was going to be a professional cellist until I was 18.
So you moved to the US when you were 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to Michigan first.
Yes, I did. I was in year 10. I moved to Frensham when I was in 7th grade, and I finished at Frensham halfway through year 10. I moved over to America, and I studied cello professionally for 3 years.
So how did you start out doing what you're doing now?
I think I was 14 when I wrote my first song, and when I was at Frensham, I remember playing it for my music teacher, and him kind of being like, you know that people don't just write songs. This is not just something that people do. Well, and he was because I was like nonchalant, oh, I wrote a song. And he was like, no, most 14-year-olds don't write songs. This is really something that you should be proud of.
Oh, okay.
Excited
so
about.
No, yeah. Discourage you.
No. He was actually the first person in my life to kind of say, this is important, you should pay attention. And I was like, I haven't played cello, and I don't know, don't worry about it. And then I got into the school in Michigan. I went and I kept writing songs, and I kept singing, and everybody kind of at the school even was like, you know that you're a singer. And it took me a long time to go, oh, this is actually what I want to do, because I think I was afraid of saying it out loud.
And then New York.
Then Boston.
Right.
I finished it in Interlochen. I went to college in Boston at Berklee College of Music. It was the first time I'd ever majored as a singer or as a songwriter. I was a songwriting major. And I left Berklee in 2014, I believe, and moved to New York and signed my record deal about 3 or 4 months later. And now I just moved to LA this summer.
So how does working as an artist in the States compared to what you could have done here, do you think?
I never really intended, it wasn't really on purpose that I was like, I've got to get out of Australia, got to go make it big in the big city. It was sort of just like I had been living there, and when I decided to be a singer, I wanted to be in New York. I loved being there. I'm not sure what the difference would have been. I think because there are less people here. The industry is governed entirely almost by that. It's like how many people out of a couple million versus there are a couple million people in LA all trying to do what you're trying to do.
But I guess with technology the way it is, I wonder, would it have been possible to do from here? Did you have to physically be in New York?
I don't think so. I think my entire career I think I was part of the first generation of musicians and artists who really got discovered on the internet.
Digital from the get-go,
100%.
Your career.
Oh yeah, my first EP was a free download online. And we put it out and said, if you want it, you can have it, and let me know what you think. And I've had a career based off of that ever since.
Now, there was a real turning point in your career. We were looking at it backstage, and I'd recommend it to everybody to have a look. A flash mob performance of one of your songs, Somebody Loves Me, which was a few years ago.
Yeah, that happened right as I was leaving Berklee. I was sitting in my hairdresser's in Boston, and my manager sent me a private link saying, somebody just sent this to me and said they were going to put it up and wanted your permission first. And I watched it, and it's this video of a man proposing to his boyfriend in a Home Depot with a flash mob to my song.
And it's this whole family.
Oh my gosh.
They're all dancing.
And it is the cutest. I weep. We were watching it backstage, and I just started to cry. She's like, don't mess up your makeup. It is, and it was so gorgeous, and I remember being like, of course they should put this out. And then that was on a Thursday afternoon that I saw it for the first time. It went public like an hour after I saw it. Thursday night, I got home. I was staying with a couple friends, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the cutest video ever. You guys have to see this. I opened it up, and it had like 800,000 views. And I remember being like, that seems wrong and crazy. And I woke up the next morning, Friday morning, and it had 1 million views. And I played a show in Brooklyn Friday night, and it had over 3 or 4 million views. And I signed my record deal on Sunday night.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So how random is that, though? I mean, you know, is that just one of those incredibly lucky breaks? Like, people have regarded breaks in very different ways, you know, pre-digital technology. But is that, I mean, where do you think you'd be if that hadn't happened?
Probably still in my tiny little apartment in New York, trying to get people to pay attention to me. I think that there are moments in every artist's career where if the music isn't good, it doesn't matter. You know, people, it's not going to work. You can work really hard, and if the product isn't good, people don't want to buy it. I've found, because I've had not good songs that people don't want to buy. But I think when it's a song that has a story, which that song to me is really important, and I think the reason that it was what it was because it's about being loved, whether it's, you know, whoever it's by, and you know, when it happened to be a part of a flash mob proposal viral video, I think the message of love and the message of acceptance was ingrained in it. And so it's become sort of like this anthemic, particularly in the LGBT community, song that sort of propelled my career. And I think, it was free on SoundCloud. And that's how it started. And it was found on the internet by these two men, and it was their song, and then it was in their video, and then I sang it at their wedding 6 months later.
Yeah. I asked Betty backstage how many views that video had, and you said, initially you said like,
a couple
about
million, 3, 4, 13 million.
Yeah. 13 million views now. So what happened to your career after that?
I signed my record deal 48 hours after, so that it propelled me into a different light, and it became a part of, it's the coolest thing to be a part of my story. It's the best thing, you know, to say when the stars align and something like that happens and you go, and that was the most amazing thing to ever happen. And it filled with love too, and it's so nice to have it be that way.
And how important was that record deal in a digital environment? How important was it for you to sign up with RCA?
Every artist, at least that I know, regardless of if I was playing cello when I was a kid and kind of didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time, my mom loves this story. When I was like 10 or 11, we were in a car, and I remember we were listening to the radio, and I said, I don't know why I see myself this way, but I just see myself in front of thousands of people singing, and I don't know what that means, but that's just how I see everything. And she was like, oh, you'll figure this out. And so I think every artist who grows up that way says, I'm going to sign a record deal one day. And that's the thing that you look forward to, and you kind of don't really know what it means or what it entails, but you want to do it, and you look forward to it. And so when I went in at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, because so this viral video happened, and then a bunch of different record labels were going, well, wait, we want to sign you now, because the internet explodes, and then everybody's jumping on it. And I had already been talking to Sony for all summer. It had been a couple months. And the president of the record label calls my manager, and he's like, if you come in tonight, we'll finish your contract, we'll get what you want. And so it's like very ominous, it's very intense. Like 11 p.m., I go into this massive Sony building in Midtown, and it's me, I think the president, the head of A&R, and my lawyer, who's been in there with their lawyer all day. And the lights in the building shut off at 11, because security shuts all the power off. And so I'm sitting there right about to sign my record deal, and all the lights went off, and I went, I don't know what this means, if this is good or bad. And so they're lighting candles, we're pouring champagne into styrofoam cups. Like, I think it was very representative of my career at the time.
Yeah.
And I signed my deal by candlelight, and then literally I signed the last page, and all the lights come back on. And I was like, this is a symbol of some kind, and I guess we'll find out what it means. And it's been great. I mean, I think it is important, and it's something that you look forward to doing, and then when you do it, you kind of have to navigate. Now there are, instead of one person making creative decisions, there are 1,000.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because, to what extent millions of views on YouTube is going to translate into financial success for a performer.
Right.
Yeah?
Well, I talk a lot about this with kind of my team in the last sort of year between album cycles. I've been finishing my second record, and especially now because I Love You Always Forever just went platinum in Australia, which is crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It is totally crazy, and I didn't put that song out. I put it out because I was taking too long to make my record, and I didn't want to keep singing the same songs over the summer at all these festivals. So I loved the song. It's a song by Donna Lewis, and I was like, I'm just going to cover it, and we'll just put it out, and I'll get to play it at all the Pride festivals I'm doing. It'll be super fun. Don't worry about it. Sony Australia picks it up and went, oh, we'll just send it to radio, see what happens. And it went #1 at radio, and now I'm back here, and people keep asking sort of like, how's it feel, like coming home, you got this big success, and it's like, actually, numbers and reading things and financial success and all the things that people sort of think about on paper make you successful, sort of, when you actually get them, don't really feel like anything. You sort of go, it's a number, that's all it is. And people put so much weight on it and make it seem so much more important, I think, than it is. But then you get in front of a room of people, whether it's 20, like the last Sydney show I played, or 1,000 people, or 18,000 people, and those people in the room are all there to see you because they love you and because your music means something to them. Like, that is a measure of success for me, where I go, no, I've touched someone or moved somebody, or somebody has a story about this song. That's why I love the Somebody Loves You flash mob video. It's because it's a story. It's a connection that these men had to this song, and so they put it out into the world, and it made people moved. It made me cry.
The recording contract, though, is critical to the to the financial success, yes?
Yes, and it's a lot more money you have to share, too. When you start a record deal, you get an album budget, and so money in the music industry is so crazy, because when you're doing it on your own, you go, oh my God, I'm going to spend $1,000 on a music video. That seems crazy. And then you get into a record label and they go, so your first music video is going to be $60,000 budget. You're going, hold on, this doesn't make any sense. But it's how it works, and people, there's so much money to be made in the music industry when you're doing it right. So we're all just trying to do it right. We're all just trying to figure it out.
How do you build longevity into a career like yours?
I think passion, I think, directly correlates the length and success of your career. I mean, I think if you're talented and driven and keep doing what you want to do, I think that's one of the biggest things, is that I think when you lose perspective and start making music that maybe isn't true to you, but is what you think other people are going to like, I think people smell that on you. And I think there's a lack of authenticity in it that people can sense, and I think that's where maybe people get lost. And where I've gotten lost, I spent a year just making my record, and there are 20 songs that are awesome, but so totally not me. And I think if I put it out, people would go, you're not this person, and I don't really like this. And so I've spent a lot of time trying to just find out exactly how I want to represent myself and feel really proud of that. And hopefully that will translate into longevity.
And has that flash mob experience shaped the way you approach how you put your music out, or how you actually deliver?
The internet is so important, and I would love for it not to be, because it's so much work, and there are so many, people are social media consultants now. That's a job title, is you're a social media consultant, and you work for a company, and that's all you do all day. And
I'm sure
because it's a full-time job. Yeah, it's a full-time job, and we have a social media intern who works at a management company, and it is hard work, and the personal connection with fans that you can have through social media, I think, has changed the way that artists grow. I mean, you think about all these people, YouTube stars. I have many friends who are YouTube stars, and one of them has this self-proclaimed talentless hack. That's what he calls himself. And it's like, no, but it's because people love him because they have access to him. And I think the flash mob is just one in a million reasons why the internet will make or break an artist, and your relationship with your fans and your connection to your fans through the internet is what will drive people to you.
We have to wrap up, unfortunately, but I wanted to ask you about your connection, your sense of connection to Australia and Australianness as part of who you are as an international artist. and also whether you could ever imagine yourself coming back here, basing yourself here.
Oh my gosh, you do. Any day. Every time I'm home in Sydney, I go, why don't I live here again? And it's just because I work every day in LA, and I would have, there are just more people. But
can you imagine it working for you, though, to come back here and be a performing artist?
Oh, absolutely. And because I also think that when you hit a certain level of success, you just bring people to you. And so I go, no, I'm in Sydney, you come to me. And that's sort of where I would love to be. I talk all the time about raising a family here and moving back here and living here. I'm always going to be an international person. I have a lot of places and family all over the world who I love to be with and spend time with. But I would move back to Australia in a heartbeat. And I think there's something particularly about Australian musicians. I don't know what I think it's authenticity, because I think there's something sort of built into Australian culture that is very we don't really take ourselves too seriously. And I think that makes, I just saw Sia at the Hollywood Bowl. And she's, I think, one of the best examples of one of the most successful radio acts in America by far. And she's, not only for herself, but also she's writing Diamonds for Rihanna. And she's writing all these songs for different artists. And she goes, no, I don't want to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. I don't feel like showing my face. Doesn't matter that I showed my face for 15 years before this. I don't care. Now I'm wearing a wig, and you're not going to see it anymore. And people love her. And I think there are a lot of Australian artists who are doing it kind of really well, and I try to at least kind of stay true to that and never take myself. It's not fun when you're taking yourself too seriously. So I think particularly America that takes itself so seriously. It's a little bit of a breath of fresh air when Australian artists come in and go, you're all doing too much, and we're just here to have fun.
Good note to end on. So great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
And very much looking forward to you performing tonight at the dinner.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thanks so much, Betty. Thanks.